I also think that my generation and the one just below me are so consumed with comfort. Look at the book that recently came out called The Coddling of the American Mind: How Good Intentions and Bad Ideas Are Setting Up a Generation for Failure. And what it highlights is that there is what is dubbed an over-safetyism. This generation wants over-safetyism. So that what that means is they have kind of medicalized everything. They refer to harm. Even if it's not real harm, they will respond to perceived harm, and they will say, I don't feel safe in this setting. And so they don't want to be challenged with anything that will make them feel uncomfortable. So they believe that somebody who disagrees with them is a potential threat to them. We used to have, what was a willingness to respect all kinds of diverse views. And so this generation really wants to hold on to comfort. They are not open to hearing anything that is outside of their already solidified belief system. What's funny is that this liberal individualism is that they have essentially co-opted some Christian ideas, actually, like the concept of justice and caring for the poor, but they have taken it and extrapolated it to its extreme end. And therefore they'll say, well, hey, it's good to take care of those people that are vulnerable, but don't tell me how to live my life or tell me what to do with my body, etc. And that's essentially where we've come to, where this generation is saying, hey, it's great for me to be a part of that, but if you're going to disagree with me, especially as it relates to my body or to my life, I don't want to be challenged that way. I want to remain in my comfort. I want to remain in this worldview, and I want, or even demand, everyone else to assimilate to what I believe. Well, let's be honest. It's really a matter of not wanting to give up autonomy. The world celebrates human autonomy and self-rule as a virtue. To do what you want to do is really to them the most virtuous thing. It's just so puzzling. Here's an example. When Bruce Jenner transitioned, he was given an award for courage. When he left his wife and left his family and did something that, let's just say he had ran off with another woman instead. That would be criticized and condemned, rightfully so. But there was some sense that he was being true to himself, and that he was really embracing human autonomy. For whatever reason, it was celebrated as a virtue. And so what I really think is the core of sin is wanting to be our own Lord, wanting to be God of our own lives. I think that autonomy, because it's so celebrated and embraced by the culture, may indeed be the biggest idol that I've ever encountered. I spoke about this in a previous video, video 11, if you feel like going back and watching. I'd given it the subtitle, Our Unrelenting Pursuit of Autonomy, which I think is an apt phrase. It's all about, I don't like the idea of people telling me what to do. How I want to live my life is my choice. It's probably the most common objection you'll ever hear. But you know what? I totally agree. I'm totally sympathetic to this point of view. I don't want anyone telling me how I should live either. But guess what? This person is not running from Christianity, but running from something else. Christianity is not about people telling you what to do. Rather, it's about God, in essence, showing us how to do. I mean, God is not just a person. He's not one of many people. He is the creator. So if he's real, he's not only created the universe, and he's created all of humanity, including you and me. And so when we listen to what God says, we are listening to the person who has the most authority to make a claim about how we should live. The Bible then contains God's description of how we, his creatures, are intended to operate. So feel free to run from Christianity if you want. That's your prerogative. You have the freedom. God's not going to violate your free will to run from him. That's your choice if you want to do that. But don't think that it's Christians who are telling you what to do. Yeah, it might be the case that they might be talking about what they think that we as humans should do, but it's only because they are trying to look at what Scripture says, which is what our Creator says, which is what the Creator has said about how we shall live and they're trying to communicate that to others. And so to the degree that which you run from that, you're running from God. You're running from the one person who knows best how you're designed to live and to flourish. Well, let's be honest here, though. People never give the real reason for either leaving or avoiding the church. When people distance themselves from the church, the reasons they offer either try to make themselves look good or make the church look bad. Sometimes this is accomplished in the same reason. But no one ever admits about the bitterness they harbor in their heart, or offers their lifestyle of sinful indulgence as the reason. Pardon the boldness, but in a culture that praises the self and is drowning in sexual sin, it is easy to see why millennials have lost the wonder of God and grown tired of and hostile to His church. I don't think intellect is driving millennials away from the church. I don't think that's quite it. Their hearts are abandoning God long before their minds. There's something that ought to come before we start talking about things like, the cosmological argument for God's existence, and the solution isn't to try and make the church more appealing. For there's no way to make church relevant to people who have no interest in surrendering their lives. Or I suppose there is, but it's certainly not biblical. We could contort our churches to affirm and facilitate self-centered and lustful desires of rebellious, hypocritical pseudo-believers, but I don't think that's the best idea. It is true that our culture has grown visibly antithetical to God and Christian commitment, but in addressing the spiritual debilitation rate of millennials, it must be admitted that that a prayerless, powerless church peddling versions of Christianity light share in the blame. God only knows the degree of our complicity and also the time when we'll be concerned enough to change direction. And healing comes by recognizing the need for a doctor. It comes by recognizing you are sick. Many millennials have been sold the lie that sickness does not come from things like sin or sexual sin, and truth be told, they are being sold the exact opposite, that health comes from the surrendering of your will to your sexuality. This lie has caused many of us millennials to say, I'm going to live life my own way. Implications of that and consequences be damned. But actions do not merely remain actions. They condition the way we think. This marks sin's slippery slope. When sin enters your life, it spreads, it distorts the way we think and feel. And so many millennials now find the church to be not merely irrelevant, but they see it as immoral. They have embraced the lie that freedom comes in unfettered autonomy, thereby making the church the oppressor. We confront sin's ruin first by surrendering our lives to God's ways. Remember, our lives must be marked by holiness if we are to lead others into it. When people see in us the value of surrendering to God's ways, they will desire it as well. I don't think my generation is entirely as apathetic as we think. I think many desire truth that will make this world better. I was apathetic at a previous point in my life, but I did grow a desire for truth. But many things are blocking the way as they blocked the way for me. I've often wondered, when I see our angry culture claiming that God has not given us enough evidence, I wonder if it is not the veiled restlessness of people who live in doubt because of their own deception. The battle in our time is posed as one of intellect, in the assertion that truth is unknowable, but that may be only a facade for the real battle, the battle of the heart, which Christ alone is able to transform.